Hey everyone, yasas que Carlos Tirtata to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making another delicious Greek classic known as Beeftekia Patates Lemonates. So this is a lemony version of the Greek meatballs and potatoes that we made a few episodes back. This is delicious and hearty. They're basically Greek-style meatballs that are baked with potatoes in a zesty lemon sauce. Simple to make. It's just made with very simple ingredients. Comes together in just a few minutes. You pop it in the oven and you forget about it, and then you'll have dinner on the table in just a little bit. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to begin by making the beeftekia, and beeftekia are basically elongated, larger meatballs. So I'm using my foolproof meatball recipe, which is delicious each and every time. So I'm going to use the food processor today just because it makes it so much easier to chop up the onion and the parsley, but you can do this all by hand with a sharp knife if you'd like. I have an onion that's peeled and quartered, and it's going to go into the food processor. Pulse it a few times until it's very finely chopped, and then add it to a bowl that already has the ground beef in there. I also have some grated garlic because I freeze my garlic, otherwise it would have went in the food processor. So you're going to need between 3 to 4 garlic cloves, or as many as your heart desires. Grate them really well until they're very finely chopped and add them to your mixing bowl. Then I'm going to take a handful of fresh parsley that's already been cleaned, and I'll pulse that really well in the food processor until that's also finely chopped. And in the big bowl it goes. Next, we're going to add 1.5 cups of unseasoned breadcrumbs. I'm using panko, but you could use your favorite breadcrumbs. You could even use gluten-free breadcrumbs if you'd like, or I have made meatballs before with mashed potatoes, and that works well too. 1 cup of milk. Then I'll add 2 eggs to the side of the bowl and just whisk them really quickly with a fork. 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, salt. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of salt. You can add less if you want it less seasoned. Then lots of freshly cracked black pepper, and then a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes if you like them. If you don't, you can leave them out. 1/2 teaspoon of dried mint keeps the mixture nice and fresh. If you have fresh mint, you can finely chop about a tablespoon of it and add it to your mixture. Now we're going to mix this all together really, really well so all of the seasonings are distributed throughout the meat and there's lots of flavor everywhere. You don't want to skip this step. Mix everything really well, and then we're going to form this into beeftekia. Now you can form this into meatballs if you like, or even into hamburger patties, but this is how I grew up eating them. You just take a good amount of the beeftekia mixture and you roll it first into a ball, just like if you were making a large meatball, and then you can just roll it so that way it's a little bit longer. I like to point the tips a little bit, and this is what they're going to look like. You can transfer all of your beeftekia onto a baking tray, so I'm not going to be using all of this meat for beeftekia. You definitely can, but I'm going to make a few meatballs so they can stay in my freezer for those busy days when my kids need something for lunch or dinner and I'm busy. They can just pop these in the air fryer and eat them in a pita or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to set the tray of beeftekia aside and I'm going to prepare the potato part of this. So you need about 8 russet or gold potatoes. I love using gold potatoes. They're just a little bit creamier than the russet. Peel them, and then you can just quarter them into wedges, just like I have over here. You can transfer them into a 9 by 13 inch baking pan while we make the little dressing that's going to go on top of them. So in a little pitcher, I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of olive oil. I freshly juiced lemons. Always use fresh lemon juice. Never buy the stuff that's in the can or the jar or in the container at the grocery store. It just tastes awful. Fresh lemon juice is best. And we're going to start off with 1/4 cup. I don't really measure. I like my lemony potatoes very lemony, but you add as much as you like. Then a tablespoon of mustard. I like using Dijon mustard. I know some people are not fans of mustard, so you can just leave it out. It's up to you. It just deepens the flavor and just makes it taste better. Whisk that all up and pour it over the potatoes. Then I'll add about 2 cups of water over the potatoes. You want to make sure that they're covered so that way they cook evenly in the oven. And now we're going to season with some salt, some freshly cracked black pepper, dried oregano, about 2 teaspoons, a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin powder. Now, instead of the water, if you want even more flavor, you can go with chicken broth. So mix the potatoes up so that way they're all seasoned properly, and then we're going to take the beeftekia that we formed and place them on top of the potatoes, cover it with foil, and this is going to bake at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 40 minutes covered, and then uncover it, and then put the tray back in the oven and let it bake for another about 40 minutes or until the potatoes are fork tender and the beeftekia gets some beautiful color on top. Once the tray comes out of the oven, you're going to see that there's still lots of broth in there. The potatoes are going to soak that up in no time. So now all we have to do is garnish this with some freshly chopped parsley and it's ready to serve. And that's it. Our lemony beeftekia and patates are ready. Once they come out of the oven, just check the potatoes. They should be fork tender, which basically means that when you insert a fork into it, it goes in easily. If they're still hard in the center and the beeftekia got too much color on them, you could cover the dish back with foil and pop it in the oven for another 15-20 minutes or until the potatoes are fully cooked. You're going to notice that as soon as it comes out of the oven, there's going to be plenty of sauce, plenty of broth in there. And then you're going to notice that after about 20 minutes, the potatoes soak most of it up. So if you don't like too much broth and you want it less brothy, don't worry. Just wait a little bit before you serve it, and then you'll see that it's just at the perfect consistency. They smell so good. Time for the taste test. And you know I like to mash my potatoes. So good. If you love Greek lemony potatoes and meatballs, who doesn't like those? You're gonna love this dish. That lemony sauce is irresistible. The meatballs just melt in your mouth. The potatoes are so tender that a fork just cuts right through them and can mash them up in like no time. All you need to serve on the side of this is some toasted bread. You can put some feta and olives on the side and serve it. If you really want to serve this with some rice, you can, but I feel like that would be a little too much. It's a simple dish that's also very simple to make. I hope you guys give this recipe a try and let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you want to learn how to make the tomato version of this, click over here and I'll see you right over there. Yes, us.